Hello and welcome. It's absolutely inevitable that 2021 is going to bring difficult economic times, and I'm sure all of us are focused on that year, thinking about how we are going to sustain our value resilience, how we're going to maintain a strong top line performance. This video is all about making that happen. It's about identifying which people to invest in, which places to invest in, and how you're going to get the best possible value return from that work in the coming year. Do stay till the end of the video, because at the end of the video I'll be sharing with you how you can download some of the things that we're talking about today. And to all of you, welcome to this, the last in our video series. It is the last in the video series, and we will at some stage be pulling this all together. So I hope that you'll join me, Toby Desforges, at shoppermarketingexperts.com. But today I have with me again my business partner, longtime friend, co-author of the Shopper Marketing Revolution, Mike Anthony. Mike, welcome.
Hey Toby, it's good to be back. I've been watching all the other videos and a little bit jealous that I've not been involved. So great to be back and looking forward to it.
Well, I was going to say, you know, you've got 3 out of 6 videos that you've been involved in. So there's plenty to look back on, plenty of legacy to go back to. As I said in the preamble, we have tough times ahead. And, you know, it seems to me that regardless of all of the uncertainties we have regarding local lockdowns, national lockdowns, changes in regulations, concerns about different channels, customers and so on, emerging and changing. The one thing that we all agree on is the economic impact of this will be significant, and that is going to have an impact on all of our behavior, but specifically on the people who buy our brands. How do you see all of this shaping up? How can you explain what might be happening out there?
All right, I mean, it's a great point, and it's great that we've got something that we can all align on, and it's great that we have a period of consistency, at least in one dimension. It's just a shame it's one of economic pressure and downturn, isn't it, really?
Yeah,
and I think the temptation to think about this in a one-dimensional way, that it's an economic downturn. That means people are going to move to, lower cost channels and lower cost brands. To see that that's what's going to happen is very, very tempting, and a lot of that will happen. But we have to remember that, of course, not all shoppers are affected in the same way. Some are directly affected, some are indirectly affected, some are just concerned. And even those that are affected, they're not consistent in the way that they respond to an economic downturn. It's not that, people don't just sit there and say, okay, we've got 20% less money coming in, so we're going to spend 20% less money on every single item we buy, right? We don't do that. We're inconsistent in the way we do it. So what's required is a way for us to think through how shoppers respond when something like an economic downturn, financial pressure hits. And this, Toby, you obviously know the model very well. We've been working on it for a few years now, but shopper economics as a model that we've developed is a brilliant way of explaining and understanding how shopper motivations turn into shopper behavior, if you like. And it works really, really well when you've got something like this hitting. And we've used it a lot to explain what COVID is doing to shopping behavior, and we can use it here. Because what we've got to think about is that in an economic downturn, shoppers are looking for value. But value isn't just monetary cost. And that's where shopper economics comes in. So just give me a couple of minutes to just kind of explain that to those of maybe people out here who haven't heard about it. But basically, this, in simple terms, shopper economics is trying to explain, if you like, the value trade-offs that a shopper makes when they make any decision about where to shop, what to buy. And it's about the trade-off between value and cost. That's how we make decisions, right? When it comes to shoppers, there are 2 dimensions of value. There's the value I get from the consumption that I'm buying for. I'm buying some things for a meal tonight, right? So that creates value in future consumption. And that's important to me as a shopper, obviously, right? There's also shopper value. I go to a store because I like it. I go to a store because it's got friendly people in it. It's got nice air conditioning or whatever it is. It's got lovely products or whatever it might be that makes me think that there's value to me as a shopper apart from the value as to the consumption occasion. So those are the two dimensions of, if you like, value. And then there's the cost part of it. And there's two dimensions to that. There is economic cost. I spend my money, but there is also time cost. The amount of time I invest in this, in creating this value in this shopping trip. So if you think about it, that's how we make our shopping decisions. We don't always choose the cheapest product because we think about the fact that it's going to take me loads and loads of time, perhaps, to find the cheapest product. And as we think about how people will adapt to economic pressure, yeah, one dimension is going to be upweighted for some people. But people are still going to spend extra money when the occasion calls for it. People are still going to buy something in a convenience store because they don't have any time to shop around, and they know they're going to pay a little bit more for it. Mm-hmm. People are not going to value check every single possible website of every possible channel for every single product just to save a few cents, because the time cost is there.
Yeah.
So we have to recognize that whilst one dimension's there, the other dimensions are still there. The weighting might have changed, but shoppers will still spend more money if there's enough consumer value or shopper value in it, or if it's a way of reducing cost.
Yeah, no, I see that. I mean, I hear this from a number of our clients, particularly in the UK, where they're just looking at some of the beer industry, which is really interesting to me, where obviously the on-trade, the bars and the restaurants have been absolutely devastated by what's changed, and it's been really tough times for the breweries when they're dealing with the on-trade. But you know, in the off-trade, what they're seeing is that premium beers are absolutely smashing it, because people are saying, you know what, I'm trading off the experience that I get as a consumer by being at home versus being in a bar. And that trade-off means that I'm prepared to open up to expenditure in parts of the category that perhaps I wouldn't have bought into in my home use. So I totally see that happening in categories in this market and in other markets like it. But surely at the end of the day, you know, the economic numbers are pretty dire. And I don't want to be desperately pessimistic. Clearly, it's inevitable, isn't it, that shoppers are going to trade down. That quite simply, it's unavoidable that we kind of have to look to that the value proposition that we offer in order to sustain the business that we might expect to do next year.
Well, I suppose if you want to sustain, right, if you want to sit there and say, look, my goal is to keep all of the volume from all of the shoppers that bought in the past, and I want to hold on to all of that, then yes, it is inevitable that you are going to go down a path of dropping prices and increasing promotional spend, if that is your goal. But I'd argue that that is almost impossible to do anyway in terms of keeping everybody. And it is definitely undesirable because the economic costs of chasing market share at all costs is enormous. The reality is that if you think about it, think about the shopper economics of it, we're basically saying that we're going to ignore the other three dimensions. We're going to ignore shopper value and consumer value and time cost, and we're going to put all of our eggs into one basket, which is economic cost, which will win that percentage of shoppers to whom that is the only thing that is important. But we're also going to invest that cost into all of the shoppers to whom actually it's not just about economic cost, it's about other things. Not all shoppers are equal. And I think if I was to take your question and say, well, yes, it depends what you are trying to sustain. If you're trying to sustain your volume and the shoppers that you've currently got, that's the route you go in. It does lead you down to some pretty grim conclusions in terms of profitability. If you want to sit there and say, well, actually, but my goal here is to maintain profitability, it opens up some different options, because you can start thinking there about saying, well, there are other things we can do. Not all shoppers are equal. Many of my current shoppers, all of you listening or watching this video right now, some of your shoppers are either unprofitable or are marginally profitable to you. There are other shoppers who are highly profitable to you and highly valuable. We can only keep them all by destroying the economics to all of them. At the same time, there are new shoppers to win, right? I mean, if you have a mainstream brand, like put someone in the middle of a category, even a mainstream brand, you know what? Some people are going to drop down. Some people will drop down to economy, right?
Sure.
So you could chase them with prices and promotions, but at the same time, there's going to be other people who used to buy a premium product who might now be eyeing the mainstream sector.
Yeah.
If all we're doing is going down, we miss that. And an example is sitting here with a cup of coffee in front of me. I think about coffee. It's an easy one to think about because it has some nice sort of strata in it. Imagine if you make a nice premium coffee bean. Maybe you're a Lavazza or something. You've got a really nice coffee bean here, right? But you know that some people are going to trade down to cheaper coffee beans. Maybe they're going to go to private label. Maybe some of them are even going to go to instant. You're saying, well, I have to keep those people, so I'm going to have to drop my price. Or I'm going to have to promote so that I'm the same price as private label. But if you do that, then you destroy your profitability. And you miss the opportunity of, how about all those people who are currently drinking coffee out of capsules, who might be saying, you know what, that capsule coffee was really nice, but blimey, it's expensive. Or maybe people who have been going out to a Starbucks for a coffee or a Costa for coffee 3 times a day and are now reflecting that maybe that $4 coffee should be a treat rather than an everyday occurrence, but they still want to have a good coffee at a fair price. If we only go one way and we try and hold what we currently have, we destroy the profitability of that group, but at the same time, we turn our eyes away from, if you like, the opportunity to win profitable shoppers.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you make an exceptionally good point, and I guess the message that you're getting across is to say, okay, so if you chase volume with the current group, you're likely to drag your profitability down. So it's about sustaining that gross penetration, but targeting groups that perhaps would be comfortable with moving into your brand. So I totally get that. But for guys and girls who might be sitting watching this now, I guess they're probably saying, well, that's all very well, but how do you do that? How am I going to approach that? What would you say to those guys?
Look, I mean, first and foremost, it is, I think there's a couple of things I want to say. First and foremost, every brand is going to be different and every category is going to be different.
Absolutely.
Right? And there is a mix for everybody here. And what I'm not saying is, it's all right, just allow all of your current shoppers to disappear and let's go find a whole bunch of new shoppers, right? Every situation is different and there's some compromise, right? And I think the challenge here is to sit there and say, well, look, there are some of my current shoppers I want to keep. And I can keep them, right? So the first thing is, which do you want to keep and which can you realistically keep profitably? Then look at which opportunities there are to win with new shoppers who are going to bring new value into your business. And at the same time, reconcile yourself to the fact that you're probably going to have to lose some. So let's do that proactively. Let's sit there and say, I'm prepared to lose this cohort of shoppers as long as I can maintain this cohort and win this cohort. So I don't know what the mix is, and it'll be different for all of them. And some of that's going to lead to more promotions or less promotions or whatever. But taking that step back and saying, it's not all about just keeping what I've got. That's the process that I would urge every brand to go through.
Yeah. And that's not just about thinking crudely about the shoppers, but it's also thinking forwards, I guess, into which retail environments are we going to focus on, which outlets are we going to focus on if it's not retail, how are we going to structure those investments going forward so that we capture the right groups of shoppers. It's now the end of October. I'm guessing that people are making decisions now. What would you advise people to do? What steps practically should people be taking in the next few weeks as they finalize plans to see if they can build this into the 2021 plan?
Yeah, look, I think you're right. Look, and again, please want to make sure I'm not giving the impression that there's a magic panacea here that says somehow we can just carry on and everything's okay and everything's easy. There's some tough decisions in here, right? We are going to see shoppers moving from one store to another as they choose to spend their money differently. We're going to see shoppers, changing their brands and their choices of categories and brands and segments. And that means we're going to have to think about channel strategies and how we attack different channels. We're going to have to make decisions about that. We're going to have to make decisions perhaps about our pack and price strategies and our architectures to how do we get the right value equation working for them. And yes, we're probably going to have to think hard about, we might need more promotions or different things in different channels. So all of that, we're going to have to do that anyway, right? And what I'm saying is before you do that, take a step back. We have shopper economics as a model. It works. We've done it countless times now with clients. It is a great way of analyzing shoppers, right? And look, Toby, I think you're going to cover this later on. We've got a downloadable which gives you loads more detail on how you use shopper economics. So stay to the end of it, and Toby's going to tell you how you can get that. But that allows you to be able to take these segments of shoppers, cohorts of shoppers, and analyze, and to look at which of those you can win. And then when you've worked out to get the profit that I need to get, not necessarily chasing the same volume, but to get the profit that I need to get, I need to win with these shoppers and these shoppers and these shoppers. And then that frames all of the other decisions. Which channels are now going to be important? What's the right pack and promotion range mix that I need to put in place? What's the right promotions that I need to do? How do I need to engage with customers differently? So it's really just, if you like, adding that piece at the front. Don't assume you have to focus on your current shoppers and win them. You don't. There are other options there. Get those options right, use shopper economics, and that will therefore lead you to more profitable decisions about channel, about pack, about price, and about promotions.
So there you have it. At the end of the day, what we're saying is that the economic downturn that is inevitable is going to affect pretty much every brand in the marketplace, possibly positively and negatively. And you cannot necessarily win all of the shoppers all of the time, knowing that if what you want to achieve is a sustainable value resilience going forwards into 2021, the key thing to be doing now is to be using the shopper economics model that Mike has talked about to identify which shoppers you must keep, which shoppers you can keep, and which shoppers you might be able to bring in, so that can frame which channels you prioritize, which activities you prioritize going forwards. As we've mentioned a couple of times, an amazing downloadable, a deck that explains what Mike has explained in a bit more detail, gives you some templates to use as you're thinking about this. All you have to do is to go over to shoppermarketingexperts.com and you'll be able to download it from there. So hopefully you access that as a result of seeing this video. This is unfortunately the last of a series of videos, hopefully the last series of videos I ever have to do relating to a pandemic. We've had some amazing speakers. Mike has been with us. We've had Patrick. We've had just so many different voices from around the world talking about different aspects of consumer goods and the stresses that we're responding to as a result of this. And hopefully each and every conversation has given you some really positive outcomes that you can take on. We won't put that away. We will be coming to you over the coming months with a way of accessing that in future. But in the meantime, my name is Toby Desforges, and from all of us at shoppermarketingexperts.com, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I wish you all success going forward. Stay well.